Hello, Miss Steele here. So this week we've been talking about art movements and we've also been talking about emphasis. And that's going to be our focus for our project today. We're going to make the longest line possible and then we're going to draw in some shapes for emphasis. But I'll talk more about that as we're working through it. For this project you want a white piece of paper. I have a really big white piece of paper so I can fit in more. A pencil and eraser. You want markers, or at least one marker, because we're going to outline our pencil line because we're going to draw it in pencil first. And then you want some crowns, and this is going to make it easier to color in the shapes that we're going to draw later. I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way so we can talk about lines for a second, just because it's been a while. So I want to review how many different kinds of lines there are, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one giant line that's going to spiral all the way in. And that's what you're going to do too. But I don't want to make it just a wavy line or just a zigzag line because I have so much space. I definitely want to try out some different lines. So of course there's straight lines. There are wavy lines, zigzag lines, bumpy lines. You could do lines that are just dashes, swirly lines. You could do lines that are swirls right next to each other. So really, there are so many different types of lines. You could do lines that are just a bunch of dots next to each other. Or you could even make up your own type of line. You could do like lines that look like the ocean. You could do lines that look like the top of a castle. So it's really up to you. You could even make up your own style if you wanted to. So I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to come back and I'm going to draw my line in pencil before I go over it in marker, just in case if I make any mistakes. And I think I'm going to start with a wavy line. And then I think as I come around this corner, I'm going to make it into a zigzag line. And I like to turn my paper while I'm drawing my line, just so it makes it easier to draw in those different areas. Let's see, what other lines? Ooh, I could do a bumpy line. And I'm just going to keep going around, and I'm not going to make my lines touch. If you see, I'm not making them cross over each other. I'm just going to swirl this all the way to the inside. So I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to try to add as many different lines as I can into this. So I'm going to keep going with my lines, swirling it, going all the way to the inside, and I'll check in with you right before I finish. All right, so I've gotten almost all the way to the inside and now I'm finishing. You can see I made a pretty crazy line. It swirls and it goes all the way to the inside, but it doesn't cross over itself. Now what I want to do is I want to pick out a color to outline this line in. You could do it in black if you want to, but I think I'm going to do mine in a different color. I think maybe I'm going to outline this in blue. So I'm going to trace over my pencil lines on here, and then I'm going to erase any that might be hanging out. All right, so I'm about halfway through going over my pencil lines, but I just wanted to check in to show you guys what I mean by tracing over that first line that you draw. And like I said, I'm doing mine in blue, but you could do yours in whatever color you like. And then once I'm done going over this line with the marker, I like to go back with my eraser and just see if I have any pencil lines that might be hanging out, because it looks more finished whenever you clean up those pencil lines that are hanging out. So like I said, I'm going to finish outlining this, and then I'm going to erase any pencil lines that are hanging out, and then we will move on to our next step. All right, so I finished going over my longest line with that blue marker, and now what I want to do is I want to draw 2 to 3 shapes, but I want one to be organic and one to be geometric. If you remember, whenever we talked about shapes, Organic shapes are kind of weird, sort of wibbly wobbly shapes that don't really have names, shapes that we don't really recognize, and that are a little funky looking. On the other side, we have geometric shapes. Geometric shapes are shapes that we recognize, shapes that normally have names, shapes like squares, circles, triangles, rectangles, ovals, diamond shapes, shapes that have a lot of straight lines typically. So we want to use our pencil, and I'm going to add in 3. I think I'm going to add 2 organic and 1 geometric shape. We want to have at least 1 organic and 1 geometric shape. I spelled organic wrong, I just noticed. Organic. I might be wrong too. I'm an art teacher, not a spelling teacher. Anyways, back to what we were doing. So we want to draw 2 organic shapes. And I'm just going to draw these in pencil. And then I'm going to draw 1 geometric shape. You might end up doing 1 geometric shape, 1 organic shape, 2 geometric shapes, and 1 organic shape. That's kind of up to you. These are going to be our points of emphasis. So now is whenever I'm going to grab those crowns I have. And what I want to do is I want to color these in, but I want to make these really interesting to look at because we already have this really cool line in the background, but I want these to have emphasis to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a few different colors to color them in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color that I'm using whenever I hit a line. So I colored this section in blue, so maybe this next section will be pink. So anytime I hit a line, I'm going to stop using the color that I'm using and try to find a new color. I could go back and forth between a few colors, but for each of these, I want to try to use different colors in different sections. So like I said, anytime I hit a line, I'm going to change the color that I'm using. So I'm not coloring in my shapes all one color. I'm going to use that longest line that we drew earlier as a guide for me. So I know where to add in color and where not to. And whatever colors you want to use are kind of up to you. But you want to change the color that you're using whenever you hit a line. So you might end up using quite a few different colors depending on how close your line is. I like to space my line out just a little bit just because that makes it easier. So I'm going to get my shapes colored in like I'm doing for my triangle, and then we will be finished. So I'm going to add some orange right here at the bottom because I hit another line. And just like that, that shape is all colored in. So it really like pops among everything else, even though there's a lot happening because there's so much color in this section, it's a point of emphasis. So I'm going to get these colored in and then we will be all finished. All right, so I have those shapes colored in, and every time I hit a line, I changed what color I was using. And this is the longest line with shapes emphasis. I can't wait to see how you guys make your lines and what shapes you choose to use and what colors you choose to use. And I will see you all next time. Have a wonderful rest of your morning, your evening, your afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Bye.